Hello, my fellow witches, sorcerers, and other magical practitioners. My name is Aiden, and welcome to a new series on my channel. As you can tell by the title, this series is going to be on deity work, or what we commonly call deity work nowadays, and we'll get into that later on. This series is going to be a few episodes long. It's not going to be a terribly long series. It's going to just get into what deities are, how we interact with them, and how to really start working with a deity and what that looks like across different traditions. So it's going to be a relatively simple series. Hopefully you all learn something from it and it opens up your eyes and broadens your horizons to the many different ways you can work with a deity. So we're going to start off with a very simple episode. First to start off with, that would be, what is a deity? At its core, it seems like a very simple question, but it can be complicated by a few things, because deities are viewed differently across the world. At its core, the way I understand a deity is a spirit who has been deified. That can mean a whole bunch of different things, though. The way we look at deities are as these supernatural beings that have always been with us and will always be with us to the end. They are what we know as gods and goddesses and everything in between that, and they are usually culturally based spirits, meaning that they are tied to specific cultures and the cultural values of that group of people. So when we look at a deity, we have to also look at the culture it originates from. But let's take a few steps back. What do I mean by deified? Well, the process of deification is essentially the process in which a spirit goes from being any ordinary garden variety spirit to becoming a god. That looks different across different cultures, but generally it's when we cross the bridge from venerating and honoring a spirit to full-on worshipping it and worshipping that aspect of nature. And that goes into more specifically what deities are, and spirits in general, really. Deities are aspects of nature, society, and humanity. Like, those are the general three categories that I put them under. They are aspects and energies that we understand to be from nature. For example, we have deities that represent the changing of seasons, like Demeter. We have deities that represent the hours, the concepts of time, just things found in nature in general. Then we have aspects of society like war gods, or gods of the house and home, gods of rulership and kingship. Then we have things that are aspects of humanity, which is like, this is like a little bit more of a weird one, where it's like the underworld gods. How's that an aspect of humanity? Well, we understand that the underworld can be representative of the fears of people, the fears of humanity. So that's like one way we can understand the underworld gods to be, as an aspect of humanity. And I'm sure there are other deities that fall outside of these three groups. It's just an easy way to kind of think about it. Deities are essentially just aspects of something that we venerate and worship and understand, and we call upon to work with in magic. So when we call upon these aspects of nature, I'm going to say aspects of nature because that's just like the easiest way to say it, I guess. When we call upon these aspects of nature, we are bringing them into our lives, and we are essentially adopting their tendencies, their spheres of influences into our lives so we can influence those aspects of our life that we want to change. So it becomes kind of a transformation of ourselves. It allows us to change ourselves for the better and grow into spheres that we want to grow into and dive deeper into the world of the magical. And of course, with the cultural significance of deities, we have to understand that we can't just start working with a deity with no context of their culture, because the culture that they come from does have an impact on what they are. You can syncretize and stuff, but you do have to understand that the individual culture that they come from do impact the way that deity was viewed, worshipped, etc. And they are all not... They shouldn't be divorced from their original contexts. We should understand them in their original context, but we can take them out of those contexts and adapt them for modern times. We'll go into that more in greater detail in later episodes. This is just a general overview of what a deity is. Now, not every spirit is a deity. I've seen people who have said that an angel is a deity, which just doesn't work. At least not on a bigger scale. Technically, you can make anything a deity if you deify it through whatever system you are going through. However, that does not mean that culturally, on a wider scale, they'll be viewed as a deity. A lot of people take angels and turn them into deities, but that doesn't really make sense, as angels are messengers and emanations of another deity. And they have always been seen as messengers, and they always serve under a deity. It's not always Adonai, but it can be Adonai, it can be Helios. If you look in the Greek magical papyri, we see that they are serving under Helios, who is syncretized with Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. But they are always subservient. So I personally don't think they can be deities, because they are emanations and subservient to another deity. And then there's also spirits that to Westerners may look like deities, but really are not. Westerners being general, we'll get into that in a minute. For example, the kami of Shintoism. A lot of people tend to conflate them as gods, but to my understanding, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, the kami aren't actually gods or deities. They can be, but they, strictly speaking, are not. They are spirits, though. They kind of cross over between nature and the supernatural. And they just kind of... They appear to be deities to us because of how they are venerated and worshipped in Japan and other countries that Japan has colonized. But they are not, to my understanding, deities. So it's important to look at other cultures before we slap the deity title onto something. Again, with the Mexica people, from what I've been told, they also didn't view the spirits that we call gods as gods, at least not in the context that we understand them as. It's a similar story with the kami, to what I understand. So when I talk about deities, I'll be mostly talking about pantheons that have spirits that have been deified and were called gods, and were understood as gods in the context that we understand them as today. Of course, I would highly recommend researching all of this to understand better what I'm talking about, because I can't give all the information in a single, however long this video is going to be, video. That's just not possible. No matter how much I talk or how much information I give, there will always be more information that I miss out on or misinterpret or just get wrong in general, because I'm a fallible human being and I can't give fully accurate information 100% of the time. And that goes for all content creators in general. So always double check and research and re-research and fact check me. And leave those fact checks in the comment section below. Just be constructive, not destructive. That's all I ask. Anyways, I keep getting off track here. So when we understand a deity, we understand that they are a spirit who has been deified. This can include people. For example, certain Roman emperors were turned into deities after their death and were worshipped from there. We also understand that certain people were also turned into deities by the gods in that respective pantheon, where instead of dying, they were turned into gods. There's a bunch of stories on that. None in particular are coming to mind right now, which is not useful for this video, but you'll find them on the internet. So there's a lot of different ways that something can become a deity within the culture and the pantheon and the spiritual understanding of the world. So it's important to look into that as well. So the definition of deity is pretty loose with that, because it's just anything to be deified. So from there we can go into how spirits evolved from being local land spirits to becoming full-on deities. That's a really interesting study that I am looking into. I think it's very interesting to see the evolution from pure animistic worldviews into more pagan worldviews into harder polytheistic religious cultural societies. That's a whole other thing, is that paganism is not one religion, but an umbrella term for a whole bunch of different religions out there. And you can debate what paganism actually means in the comment section below, because I'm not here to define it. But it's just something to bear in mind, is that not all pantheons work the same, not all deities will work the same, so you need to understand each pantheon on its own. We'll get into mixing pantheons later, because I have thoughts on that. But yes, in conclusion, because I don't want this video to be too long, as this is just an introduction, I'm going to try not to get too ahead of myself. A deity is a spirit that's been deified. That can be any aspect of nature, society, and humanity as a whole. Or it could be a person that's been deified, a nature spirit that's been deified, anything like that. Look into pantheons and cultures that surround them to better understand those things. And be sure to always do research and look into them from there. I don't think I have anything else to say, so I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you all for watching. Hope you learned something. Keep a lookout for the rest of the series coming out. And I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.